Hi, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Welcome to Together Women Rise's September webinar. My name is Sheila Dunn, and I'm the Weaverville, North Carolina chapter leader, and I'll be tonight's moderator. Whether this is your first Rise event or if you're a returning member, thanks for joining us this evening. It's really great to see everybody. Thanks for coming. As you probably know, Together Women Rise is a powerful community of women and allies dedicated to achieving global gender equality. Together, we learn about and advocate for gender equality issues. We also give grants to organizations that empower women and girls in low-income communities in the global South. And finally, we build community to forge meaningful connections with each other and with women around the world. Our model is based on collective giving. By harnessing the power of coming together, our contributions make a powerful impact. If you're interested in supporting Together Women Rise or learning more about us, please visit our website at togetherwomenrise.org. And before we get started, here are a few Zoom reminders. Please keep yourself on mute while our speakers are presenting. There will be a Q&A after the speakers, so please enter your questions using the chat function. We'll do our best to get to as many questions as we can. And finally, the closed captioning feature is enabled. So if you'd like captions, go to your Zoom toolbar and click on Show Captions in the language of your choice. So let's get started with tonight's program. At these monthly webinars, we learn the challenges and issues faced by women and girls, as well as the important work that together we're funding. This month, our two featured grantees are MindLeaps in Uganda and Moving the Goalposts Kilifi in Kenya. Both focus on the value of breaking down barriers to girls' education in amazingly creative ways. I think you're going to really enjoy tonight's program. So we're going to start with a short video about each one of these organizations. After the videos, we'll have a conversation with our guest speakers. You can see at the top right, Dorcas and Rebecca. Wendy?
Hello, my name is Mary Ellen Graham, and I am a volunteer on Together Women Rise's Grants and Partnerships Committee for the past 5 years. The GPC is a dedicated team of Rise volunteers responsible for reviewing, screening, and vetting the applications for our featured grants program. This month, we are funding 2 featured grants of $50,000 each to MindLeaps in Uganda and Moving the Goalposts in Kenya. Both of these organizations use sports and/or dance to open doors for girls who live in poverty and in communities where they lack agency, education, and membership. Being involved in sports and dance programs can change a girl's future and that of her community. Having a common goal and committed practice of sports or dance can bring girls together and create opportunities for life-changing conversations where they are valued and seen and heard. Using sport and movement as tools can provide a safe space to address sensitive and taboo subjects like sexual and reproductive health, gender-based violence, and more. The mere existence of girls' sports, which is a traditionally male-dominated arena, shakes the gender power order and can change gender norms. MindLeaps is a previous Rise grantee that received a featured grant in 2019. Our new grant will help create a sexual and reproductive health program for girls in Kampala, Uganda, with dance classes as an integral part of the curriculum. And I can speak personally to the value of dance. When, as 10, I was sent for dance instruction because of shyness and clumsiness. And 5 years later, was accepted into Juilliard's dance program and was a member of a performing company. Moving the Goalposts engages girls in football, or soccer, as we call it here in the U.S., and uses the sport as a tool to help girls and young women to become leaders and create better futures for themselves. 2 grantees using sports and the arts to increase girls' agency. I'm sure you will find these programs inspiring and worthy of your support. The next few months are full of great opportunities for you to engage with RISE and its mission. Our next book club event is on December 12th, when we will host a conversation with Pashtani Durrani, author of Last to Eat, Last to Learn, My Life in Afghanistan, Fighting to Educate Women. We will also have a follow-up event on September 19th for those interested in a deeper discussion about the book. The Together Women Rise advocacy group with results will have a special event on September 24th for anyone interested in learning how to create change and maintain your impact through advocacy. October 11th is International Day of the Girl, and we will celebrate this in multiple ways throughout the month. We are declaring the entire month Bring Your Daughter to Rise Month, and encouraging chapter members to bring their daughters, granddaughters, nieces, or any other special girl to their RISE chapter meeting. On October 10th, we will hold a very special webinar entitled Girls as Agent of Change. And on October 11th, RISE is participating in an anchor partner in Give to Women and Girls Day. Did you know that less than 2% of charitable giving in the United States is for women and girls? We need to change this. RISE will be launching our 2024 annual appeal on Give to Women and Girls Day, and will be offering a special opportunity to double your donation thanks to several generous donors. There are so many ways for you to make a difference to women and girls. And thank you for joining us, and enjoy this video from MindLeaps and Moving the Goalposts.
Welcome to MindLeaps.
Welcome to Uganda. Located in East Africa, Uganda is known as the African state hosting the most refugees on the continent. Currently, Uganda houses 1.4 million refugees, in addition to its own population over 47 million. In 2024, 41.3% of the population is living below the poverty line, meaning they survive on less than $2.15 per day. The reported GDP per capita is $964. As a point of comparison, the GDP per capita in the USA is $76,330. And poverty and the economy are not the only issues facing the average Ugandan. The World Bank ranked education very low in Uganda. On average, children only complete about 6.8 years of formal education, which is even lower than the standard in sub-Saharan Africa of 8.3 years. Even worse, roughly only 4 of these 6.8 years are considered relevant, with the remaining years lost due to the poor quality of education. It is within this context that MindLeaps felt compelled to begin operations in Uganda 7 years ago. MindLeaps is a unique organization. We actually believe that dance, yes, dance, can be a tool to transform lives, even in the most economically depressed neighborhoods in the world. A girl's journey with MindLeaps starts in the dance studio. She may be living in an unstable home situation, at risk of dropping out of school, and have very few role models to look up to. However, the joy and freedom of music and dance draws her to enroll in MindLeaps. The MindLeaps scientifically based curriculum focuses on 7 particular social emotional learning skills that are known to improve academic achievement. Using a software tool that collects data around these skills, MindLeaps can determine how children are developing and what additional support is needed. In Uganda today, we run a tutoring program, an IT program, a meal program, and a school sponsorship program to help transition girls from the dance studio into the classroom.
Like when I was still young, I had a dream of at one day becoming one of the ballet dancers in life, and I didn't expect it to happen. MindLeaps has at least made my dream come true.
In partnership with Together Women Rise, MindLeaps is building a sexual and reproductive health program that will support 100 of these girls over 2 years to learn about their bodies and how they can make good choices for their futures. The program is led by MindLeaps Uganda's country director, who has a long history of working with traumatized women.
You see, as refugee kids, they come to us when they've lost a lot. Their childhood has been stolen away from them. Most of them have been forced to assume positions as household heads, while others have witnessed traumatic events like killing of their parents. Others have been abused themselves. So they are having a very difficult time. And yes, they receive counseling, but there are more cases of relapse because of the everyday situation in Uganda and the living situation that usually does not warrant them to have a normal life like children.
With the implementation of this project, we are taking a significant step. Success means 100 girls graduate secondary school and become physically, mentally, and emotionally strong young women who are independent and self-reliant. We are proud to be partnered with Together Women Rise to empower these young women. They remind us each and every day that hope, hard work, and education transforms lives.
Nilikuwa sijui lolote kuhusu binti mpaka kusikia na marafiki. Kumbe kuna tena kikundi, kauliza kikundi gani? Hapa ni cha binti.
My name is Alice Tama, and I work for Moving the Goalposts as a health coordinator. Moving the Goalposts is a sport for development organization that uses soccer or football to bring the girls together to safe spaces whereby they can speak about sexual reproductive health issues, gender-based violence, any issue that they are facing from the community. Last year, we secured a grant from Together Women Rise for binti breaking barriers, and this grant is going to help us to reach to teen moms in Kilifi County and tackle the issue of teenage pregnancy.
Kwa majina ni Stella Maua Kinga. Familia yetu tuko watoto 9, mimi wa 7. Naishi na wazazi wetu wawili, baba na mama. Baba hana kazi, mama ndo anafanya kazi ya hoteli. Mama akitafuta akipata tutashukuru na chenye amepata, kikosa huyo tubaki hivyo hivyo. Kwa mfano ametafuta hakupata chochote, yani toka asubuhi mpaka jioni hajapata kitu cha kula. Tuona mimi hivyo na njaa. Nilipata ujauzito ilikuwa mwezi wa 11 2022. Shule zilipofunguliwa kwa jini kaseti. Nikaenda hivyo ujauzito mpaka mwezi wa 8 tarehe 12. Niliporudi shuleni nilipokuwa nilijifungua, mama ndo alikuwa anamwangalia huyo mtoto mpaka alipomaliza mtihani wangu. Nilisoma na shida mpaka kamaliza. Kapata 268. Lakini kulikuwa hakuna nini pesa kota nitisha shule upili.
We have teen moms who are grouped in 9 psychosocial support groups. We speak about contraceptives, nutrition for their babies, mental health, because it is tough to be a teen mom. So we tackle mental health for them. We speak about entrepreneur skills, because there are some, once we set goals with them, there are some that express interest in starting small businesses. There are some that also express interest in being reintegrated back to school.
Ukaenda hapo wakaanza kuuliza maswali, wajua maana family planning, nasema sijui. Nasema kama ujui ujeni tutakuelezea. Wakatuelezea, sasa walivyotuelezea mimi nikasema vile wamesema mimi nimependa, nimechagulia. Nikaenda nikaika family planning, biashara. Nikafungua biashara, nilikuwa nimesomea, lakini ikaenda ikafifia iaje. Alafu lingine wakatufunza afya yangu haya mtoto. Ombi langu kwa nchi kwa namba hii, kama itawezekana nirudishe. Nikimaliza second ilikuwa kitu yenye kwa akili yangu ni kufanya tu bakery.
So we do all that within the psychosocial support groups for the teen moms. This project will also address the issue of female genital mutilation in Tana River County. This grant will enable moving the goalposts to ensure that adolescent and young women, especially the teen and young mothers, receive youth-friendly services. And by this, I mean correct information in terms of sexual reproductive health and services. We will also ensure that we reintegrate them back to school and provide entrepreneurial skills for those who want to start small businesses. We will also be talking about financial management, because we envision to continue or even strengthen the table banking groups that we have within the teen moms support groups. And we would also ensure that we continue building our girls' agency through football, by ensuring that we are having the football sessions in the league fields, which serve as our safe spaces for these girls to bring out their issues. I would like to take this opportunity and thank Together Women Rise for enabling us to continue impacting positively to the lives of the girls in our community.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. So let's start tonight's Q&A session with, I'll read you the bios of the two folks that are here to present for us tonight. We're pleased to have with us, as I said earlier, Dorcas Amakobi and Rebecca Davis. Dorcas is the executive director of Moving the Goalposts in Kenya, and Rebecca Davis is the founder and executive director of MindLeaps in Uganda. So I'll start with Rebecca's bio. She's an American social entrepreneur with a background in ballet and choreography from Russia. She established MindLeaps in 2014 after discovering street children's passion for dance during her work on post-genocide reconciliation. MindLeaps uses dance to track social-emotional learning and now serves over 10,000 youth in 6 countries. Rebecca is a 2-time Fulbright Scholar with degrees in business administration and international relations, and has been featured in documentaries, TEDx talks, and various international conferences. She received the Women's Empowerment Award from the United Nations Federal Credit Union Foundation in 2023. Dorcas Amakobi leads vision and strategy at Moving the Goalposts, a unique organization that uses football to advance the rights of girls and young women in rural Kenya. With over 2 decades in gender development, sustainability, and resource mobilization, she's worked on women's rights, youth development, and disability inclusion. Notably, she established safeguarding standards recognized by UNICEF as a best practice in 2016. When I received this bio, I didn't know what that meant, so I looked up what safeguarding standards are, and they're standards that are put in place to protect children against exploitation and abuse. So thank you, Dorcas. Dorcas also serves on various advisory boards and holds multiple degrees and fellowships, including the African Visionary Fellowship and the Vital Voices Fortune 500 Fellowship. So welcome both Dorcas and Rebecca. We're really glad you're with us tonight. Just a note for participants, remember to continue to put your questions in the chat as they arise. So turning to our guests, Dorcas, I'm going to start with you. And by the way, for everyone who just came in, it's 3 o'clock in the morning at Dorcas's time in Kenya. So I can't believe she's so spunky looking, but Dorcas, could you share a little bit more about the integration of football with educational and health programs and moving the goalposts approach? For instance, how does football specifically help in addressing issues like gender-based violence and reproductive health in the community that your organization serves?
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for having me. And thank you for your support. Once again, good evening and good morning from Kenya. I would like to really appreciate the opportunity to be here. So I'll start by just sharing how sports really can contribute to prevention of gender-based violence. Sport is a very powerful tool when used positively, because sport has also not been used positively in various instances. And sport has the ability to address gender-based violence in its various forms. And at Moving the Goalposts, we see the opportunity for sport to help us to tackle it at individual level, that is at the individual adolescent girls and young women level, and also an opportunity for us to use the tool for community education and to influence behavior change. When we enter communities, we work with girls on the pitch, and as well as working with the girls in our community. Our main goal is to provide direct information and resources to adolescent girls and young women to enable them make informed choices about their bodies, their sexual reproductive health and rights. And some of the decisions we really focus on are decisions around girls' bodies, and decisions around when they would marry, because most of the time you find that parents or families want to be the one that decide for girls when they will marry, how many children they want to have. That is also a society's, responsibility. So we want that power to be returned back to the girls, and therefore we enable them to start thinking about they own these decisions. They should be the ones that think about like when they would marry, how many children they want to have, and also like how do they want to lead their life. And as we work with girls directly, we recognize that sustainable solutions are always maintained by communities and structures whose role remain fundamental in addressing the barriers that girls continue to face, which are very ingrained in their traditional and cultural, standards within their community. And these standards continue really to promote or advance discrimination against girls and young women. And therefore, our program is designed in a way that we have dialogues with communities, because we recognize that when we walk away from the pitch, girls are left with communities the rest of the day, the rest of the year, and therefore we would like to influence what happens in these communities. And therefore we have these dialogues. We speak about the cultures openly through intergenerational dialogue. We call them Tumanyane, or let's know each other. And we try to really unpack some of these traditional and cultural practices between the parents and the girls. And this happens both on the pitch and off the pitch. So off the pitch, they are very like formal discussions where, girls, sit around and really present some of the challenges they're facing within communities and how they would like communities to change. And on the pitch, when they play football, when they play soccer, together with their parents, together with the community members, it really enables us to really unpack that power and power imbalance, especially when the girls score against the parents, when the parents really feel that, like we are here, we are trying to, like chase a ball together. And some of the issues that have been presented in our conversation are really important. So we find opportunities for them to reflect on some of these issues. We are really glad that to date we are working with 52 communities to which this work is really happening. And we hope that to reach 100 communities by 2030. And we have worked currently with 70,000 adolescent girls and young women who have gone through our program. Thank you, Sheila.
Wow, thank you for that, Dorcas. Rebecca, can you tell me how your background in dance influenced the development of the MindLeaps model? And what makes dance an effective medium for teaching critical life skills and academic achievements to girls?
Thank you, and also very, very pleased to be here and grateful to the support from Together Women Rise. I mean, to be quite honest, MindLeaps wouldn't even exist if I didn't have a dance background. I never had an intention of starting an NGO that would be doing most of our work today in Africa. I don't think that was even in kind of the lexicon of my thinking. But I was really fascinated as a young child about the power of dance in general on how it makes us think about ourselves and our world. So I was starting a dance company in Philadelphia, and our focus was using dance as a form of social justice. And in the course of doing that, we ended up creating an original work about, at that time, the genocide that was happening in Darfur. And through that experience, I ended up with a lot of questions being asked back to me about what does post-reconciliation look like? How do people overcome these mass atrocities? And as a dancer, I really had no idea how to answer these questions. But I realized like there was something that was being provoked in people who were learning about this through the arts. So kind of on a personal quest to figure out how to answer these questions for my dance company, I sought out a post-genocide environment that I could visit to try to understand exactly kind of what that means on the ground. And that took me to Rwanda. And actually that was my first time ever in my entire life to go to Africa. And when I was in Rwanda, I just kept seeing everywhere I would go, all of these kids on the streets dancing. Like this was like the most important pastime of most of the people that I was meeting by coincidence. And I would ask these kids, like, where did you learn to dance? And they're like, oh, we just danced, right? There's no formal schools, like not at all like what we were doing in Philadelphia. And then you would ask these kids, like, what do you want to do? Like, kind of what's the next step for you? And I kept hearing, I want to go to school. I want to go to school. I want to go to school. And like, it took me a while to kind of put together in my mind, like these kids are amazing young dancers and don't even go to formal education. Like, what is this gap between these two things? And I think it is my background as a dancer that made me first recognize and value the tremendous talent and ability of these youth. And also from my cultural experiences and my own life experiences, the gap that exists unless that gap can be closed to help them actually move forward into formal education. So from kind of that kind of opening up of my mind and seeing the reality of what it was in Rwanda, we actually started to rework the entire mission of the dance company to do community-based work in countries where there's a large out-of-school population and where children have an innate love of dance. And subsequently, that has taken us to build our program in Uganda that we're here to talk about today, and other countries in Africa. I think similar to how Dorcas has shared, there's something really special that happens if it's on the pitch or if it's in a dance studio, or in many cases, just a dance space. It usually doesn't even look like a studio. But that's really kind of a parallel to a classroom, like an academic classroom. I mean, what we're asking children and girls to do is the same. We're asking them to stand in lines, to listen to instructions, to learn something, to repeat it back, to try it with their bodies, to articulate it with their mind, their words, to remember it in their minds, to be able to work with others to sort it out. I mean, all of those are completely transferable skills. That's the same skill set that we use when we go to school. The trick is to find these youth and help them understand that they have and can develop those skills in a space where they already feel comfortable and confident, and then to allow them to understand now they're ready to be successful and ready to go on to that next stage of their life and develop those skills at home, in their communities, and most importantly at school.
Thanks, Rebecca. That's fascinating. I would have normally not made that leap. So I'd like to ask you both a few questions, and you can decide how you wish to answer them. Who first? Can you elaborate on the specific barriers these girls face accessing education and support in the locations you serve, and explain why integrating your holistic approaches is essential for overcoming their challenges? It's kind of a little repetition from the last question, but and then the following question, I'm going to ask you about community involvement, getting buy-in from community members. But for now, let's focus on the problems girls face in the areas that you serve and how you solve that. Thanks.
Yeah, Rebecca, I hope you're good if I go first.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you. So in Kilifi, and we face the challenge of teenage pregnancies, and I think an average of about 3 girls out of 10 girls are at risk of experiencing or getting pregnant in their teenage age, and being teen moms and having children and bringing up children, and they're caught in the cycle of like poverty, because every time a young child produces or gets pregnant, it means that her future in education is curtailed. How opportunities are interrupted in terms of like being able to get a job, being able to raise her children in the way that she would want, and also being able to access, even have resources to be able to access reproductive health and rights services. We also face the barriers of traditional and cultural norms that are harmful, that have constantly been a barrier, especially for our girls, because our communities are slowly, really understanding that some of the harmful cultural practices, like female genital mutilation, some of the harmful cultural practices, like marrying girls early, have a long-term impact in a generation. And these are some of the challenges that we continue to experience that are still being practiced within our communities, and directly, I would say, very much impact on the adolescent girls and young women.
Yeah, and in the context of Uganda, and specifically where the program is supported with Together Women Rise, is in a community called Katwe. I mean, to be again quite blunt with words, I mean, it is an urban slum, and that carries all of the connotation of what the word slum means. Located in Kampala, in the capital city. And in Katwe, the barriers are more significant than in some of the other areas of the capital city. For those of you who've been to Kampala, you probably understand there's quite a range of socioeconomic status there. But Katwe has its challenges. I think what our girls struggle with the most, and the biggest barrier, is that their parents, and in most cases, almost all cases of the girls that I know who are in this program this year, it's a single parent home, and it's a female headed household. And their mothers have not finished secondary school. Some of the mothers have finished primary school, and some of the mothers did not finish primary school. So when we're working with 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 17-year-olds, there's really nobody in their family unit that understands what they're going through or potentially understands why they need to do that or why it's so important for them to finish school. There's just not an understanding of that in their community. And I think that that's something that we struggle with as an organization and with our female leaders on the ground, to help them see that that's actually a gap that they may have to be the first ones to overcome. We often see how this plays out in Catway, where as the girls get older, 16, 17 years old, and similar to the examples that Dorcas has given, many children at home, they may be like the second oldest or the third oldest with several young children after them, that then the importance of them going to school pales in comparison with their younger siblings. And they're usually tasked to stay home and either take care of the younger children or help with chores. And the youngest children then have the chance to start primary school. But in these families, nobody's actually getting all the way through to help break that cycle. And that's kind of that circular, those circular conditions is really what holds our girls back the most. And the other piece of it, and again, relevant to the work that Dorcas is doing as well, is that there's kind of a stigma around information. I mean, the whole program that we're running with Together Women Rise's support, SRH, Sexual Reproductive Health, is taboo in the community. And the idea that actually these girls are learning about their bodies, they're understanding how they can get pregnant, they're understanding how they could prevent pregnancy if they want to prevent pregnancy, is quite controversial. So that access to information is not readily available and is not easy for them to open up those conversations outside of a safe space.
Wow, thank you, Rebecca. And that which brings me to the next question. Were you finished?
Yes, finished.
I've always been fascinated by how some of our grantees, these organizations, go into communities and they bring up topics that are controversial and, as you said, taboo. And it's so fascinating to me how you obtain buy-in from not only the parents, but the community leaders. So that's my next question. I was wondering if you could shed some light on how your organization achieves that, because obviously you've both organizations have been quite successful. So I'd love to know how you pulled that off.
Rebecca, you want to go first?
Okay, we'll switch it up. Yes, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I think the trick for MindLeaps is that the entry point is dance. As some of you know from your own experiences with the arts, is whoever you learned it from, whoever was your teacher, like you develop kind of this special bond, this special trust, this special relationship with the people that you share, that you kind of that sweat and those tears with as you learn your craft or your art form. Since the girls are starting with that point with MindLeaps, they feel very close to our female Ugandan staff. And that creates a sense of trust, a sense of openness, and a sense that it's okay to do things that maybe they weren't asked to do or allowed to do in other spaces before. I don't think MindLeaps could really run an SRH program in a community like Catway if that was the entry point. I don't think there would be enough patience from the girls and understanding what this is about and why they should do it, or approval from their parents to actually let them go to that space and capture that information. But once the relationships are really built between the staff and the girls to begin with, and that trust is formed, then it's much easier to go into these difficult conversations. For us, that's really the key to it. It can't work unless that trust is built organically first. And then from there, as with all these organizations working in East Africa, I mean, of course, we have an affiliation with the government. We are reviewed by the government every year. There's a lot of government reporting and oversight. But that comes, and that's easier to handle once the community is saying, we want the program. And you can see parents supporting it, you can see children coming. Then the government is a little bit more lenient and understanding that this is answering a need in the community and therefore it should be allowed to continue. But again, for us, it really had to start from the girls themselves pushing all of those blocks forward for us.
Thanks.
Dorcas, yeah.
Thank you. So when we go to communities, I think our entry point is really trying to get a buy-in in the whole community. And therefore, our community entry strategy is that we are coming and we would like to understand what are some of the challenges that you face as a community. And that happens in public forums where we bring people together. And when communities list their priorities, we have an opportunity to really exactly, zone into the issues that really affect adolescent girls and young women and ensure that they become very clear, because they might have things like lack of water, lack of transport, infrastructure. But then we try in a way to really, see, yes, you have these challenges, but we are here to really look at how some of the things that are on your priority list are affecting girls and young women, because everything is related. And therefore, when we start, identifying, especially things like places where girls, the safe spaces that girls are going to play in, these are done by communities. They identify. When we do our first recruitment, communities are the ones that really recruit the first girls, and then they hand over that power to the girls, and girls continue to run it. So you find that our program is very much based in terms of community. We give back the community power, and then we play around with that, giving that power back to the community and say that, okay, fine, now that we have done this whole, you have identified a safe space. How are you going to support the girls to ensure that whatever program we are running, whether it is a livelihood, an entrepreneurship program, whether it's a sports program, how will it be sustained? And we see a lot of support. When we started, we faced a lot of challenges, I would say 2 decades ago, because even finding an opportunity for boys to share, a soccer pitch belongs to men. And we had to really support girls so that they can negotiate to have access to the space. And now, as we speak, we have, collaboration with the boys on the pitch. You find that they can sit on the side and wait for girls to finish their matches, unlike before. And we have created collaborations because we have taken also an advocacy approach, because we believe that when we are addressing issues that are related to girls' rights, we really need to really identify what are some of the advocacy issues that are really key, that we may have a stand, and we need to show the girls that it's important they have a stand around. For example, access to youth like friendly youth services, access to contraceptives. So these are some of the things that may seem controversial, but we are lucky that they exist in some of our government policies. And therefore, when we partner with especially like the health centers, the health providers, we are saying that, can we have open doors for girls who want to access these services? And we collaboratively work with the health centers to ensure that this is sustained through our peer provider program. Again, when we are talking about return back to school, especially for adolescent girls who have, had their children or who wanted to continue with education. The practice in Kenya before was that if a girl gets pregnant, she's expelled from school and she's not expected to return back to school. There's stigma around, a girl being pregnant and wearing uniform. So there was a lot of challenges, especially for these girls. And therefore, currently, we have been advocating that the schools should remain friendly for an adolescent girls. We have been educating and partnering with the schools themselves, the head teachers of the schools, to ensure that when a girl goes back to school, they can still be empowered, because we have prepared her very well, that they should feel confident to still engage with education while pregnant. But therefore, what is the environment that we are taking her into? So we collaborate with the schools to ensure that when she goes back, she's going to find an environment that is very friendly, that will help her thrive, and so that she can be able to move on to the next level.
Great. Thank you, Dorcas. Moving along to the next question. I'm interested in any examples you may have of shifts that you've seen occurring in these girls, in their perceptions, their attitudes, their agency. And then if you could comment on whether or not this has had, say, a ripple effect in their communities or they're in their families, that would be great. And then on an even bigger level, if you're noticing any changes in the mindset of, or any kind of practices that lend themselves towards gender equality.
Thank you, Sheila. So when we started, again, 2 decades ago, girls playing football was considered a taboo topic, especially because football was well accepted for boys and not girls. And we have learned with time that we have seen communities, prioritize and allow their girls going to sport. Initially, when we started, there were so many, I would say, myths and misconceptions around girls playing soccer. People were saying that they were going to become like men. They were going to, be masculine. They're not going to be like good, women. So we have seen a change. And even in very conservative communities, we have seen girls themselves step up on the pitch and really, fight for those spaces within the communities. And I think for us, because we are seeing that change both on the pitch and in communities, we have had girls now who are playing professional football and who have been very successful. Actually, our first alumni has now wrote her own book around playing football, and she was playing professional soccer in Greece. And that in itself is a really, great influence. She's a role model in the community. We have one of the girls who is now a coach, and she's coaching our team at the top, professional level. And she started in our program when she was 9. And they're really, some of those girls, those who are referees, who are refereeing matches, are really transforming how people think about soccer. And we are having like even governments, groups coming to visit our organization and asking us how they can learn, quickly from us, how to, run programs around women and soccer and the success that we've had. So we are a great case study in our community in terms of how you can use sport to really influence even the government in how they plan and how they resource. We have also seen when we started 2 decades ago, parents were not prioritizing girls' education because girls were supposed to be in the kitchen, they were supposed to wait and get married. We have been doing a lot of work around, speaking to parents around the importance of girls' education. And we have seen now parents are budgeting for girls' education, despite that we really intervene where we have biggest gaps, especially when families are really poor. We have seen that, normally parents now are budgeting and supporting their daughters to pursue education and pursue it to the highest level. So for us, that is something that we've seen as a change. I think if you hear moving the goalposts, a girl is in moving the goalposts, this is how people see her. They see her as bold, resilient, and sometimes they say, oh yeah, she is, she's not a girl you can move around easily, you can push around easily. And for us, I think we take that very positively, although sometimes in the community it can seem very negative. Because of our cultural also, again, how the community perceives girls who are bold, resilient, and who are not pushed over easily. I think for us, we have seen that we have created a network of girls who understand their power and who are taking up this power, especially when it comes to reporting sexual abuse cases, role modeling to each other on the pitch, because our program is run by the girls themselves. We don't have adults running it. Currently, we have now recruited a former participant of our program to the board. And for us, because we have existed for 20 years, that is a big success because we have always dreamed to have that. And 40% of our staff members are former beneficiaries of the program. So that in itself just gives us the belief that whatever we are doing is the right thing.
That's so encouraging. Thank you. Rebecca, we're running a little late, but take your time.
That is incredible, Dorcas. So with the MindLeaps program, we definitely see the shift at the girl level. And I think the girls who are going through this program that we're talking about tonight, the SRH program in Uganda, I think if I just kind of tell you what's happening right now in Uganda, it kind of serves as the best possible answer to this question. So the girls are learning about sexual and reproductive health rights right now, and they finished the first round of the dance program already at MindLeaps. And now we're formulating our plans for 2025, and the plan is for the next group of girls to now go through this program. And so the girls have like started to ask our staff, like, well, what's happening to us next year? And we're like, you're alumni, you're welcome to the MindLeaps Center, you can continue to dance here. And they're like, that's not our question. They're like, what program are we doing at MindLeaps next year? And we're like, And then we did not answer. And then the girls came back with their own proposal. And the girls have now proposed to our Ugandan staff that they want a tutoring program next year because they're doing well in school, but they're worried that they won't be able to continue to do well without additional academic supports. So they're not asking for school fees. They're not asking for something that we give them. They're asking to actually have us invest deeper in their academic knowledge. And it came completely from them. So now we're rebuilding our whole 2025 plan to make sure these girls have a tutoring program. And I think like that's essentially what we see time and time again is if you help these young girls develop the agency that they already have, like they will lead you to the next step. Like they will tell you what they need now. And at the second part of the question, do we see that shift to the community? We see it shift to the parents and the mothers. And I shared with you at the beginning that the mothers are a challenging group for us because they don't come from this experience, and watching their children go, rise through high school as a brand new thing happening in the household. So one of the things that we've recognized that's really important to do to make sure the family unit moves together is to spend time with those mothers and make sure that their socioeconomic lives change alongside the girls as they access education. So in Uganda, we've been building out what we call our family strengthening program, similar to like a livelihoods program, where these mothers now join in self-help groups and they have their own savings and loan circles. So they pool their money and then they help each other with different business needs, different household needs, different emergencies that come up in their day-to-day lives. And then MindLeaps also is now supplementing that to help them start small businesses so that the mothers themselves are becoming empowered and being seen as a very respectable head of the household by their young daughters who are now also rising up because they're becoming educated. For us, that's been a key shift that has to move together for that community change to take hold. And for the third part of the question, this is where I think there's still work to be done around systems change and government beliefs and government supports. I don't think that it's there yet. I think we still have a lot more to do to help the local governments especially recognize the importance of the collective work that's being done to lift up girls and women and really see how that can get embedded in systems change and policies going forward. I think that one we can't quite check off yet.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask a question for which hopefully you'll have a fast, easy answer. And it's looking ahead. Anything new on the horizon or new initiatives that you're looking forward to that you can share with us?
Happy to jump in. Similar to what Dorcas said, we're actually thrilled to see that we're at the point now where some of our first graduates are becoming our senior staff in our countries. We've seen that happen in 2 other countries, and now next year that will be happening in Uganda. So we're finally starting to see all of the change rise up to organizational leadership, and we know that that'll bring us much more respect and much more motivation for young girls to see how far they can really go.
Great.
Yeah. For us, what is new in the horizon, we are in the process of preparing or, constructing a sports academy on a 15-acre property that will provide an exclusive space for girls and young women to play sport and also access employment opportunities.
Great. Gosh, sounds so exciting. Thank you so much. Wendy, would you like to take over the questions from the chat?
Sure, there's not too much here because Rebecca and Dorcas covered things so beautifully. There is a question about the role that the men play in the family if the women are the primary single support system.
Okay. In our case, especially in the community that we're speaking about in Katwe, it really is predominantly women, female-headed households, and young girls and young women. But I think the role of the men and the boys is very important, even though we may not feel a male presence at home or a father figure in their lives. What we do see is when we have the opportunity to mix the genders in the dance classes, that new relationships and new understandings of how to be respectful of one another is built more organically. And we see that that's actually something that's very important to the girls and something that has to be done with the boys in order for this change to hold outside of the dance space or the dance studio. And that, again, like, it comes back to like the whole essence of our program tonight is sports and dance have a way to help us see how those healthy relationships can be built and can help children find the balance between each other. And then that really kind of organic connection can hold in new environments. So for us, that's where we see the work should be done and needs to be done. And we hope that then some of those boys will grow up to be really wonderful fathers and husbands one day.
Yeah, just to add on what Rebecca has said, in the context of an African culture, when a man is not in a family, the boy in that family is escalated to be the head of the family, because the culture believes that a man there should be a male voice in that family. So you find that men and boys have a reserve, especially for power, and women would definitely answer to men, whether, I think in our community, whether it's their son, or whether the son is like not providing, but as long as there's a boy or there's a man in that family, they would always be invited for communities decisions. And that's why we have a male engagement program to just ensure that we address the issue of positive masculinity, because we believe that as much as men might be absent, maybe because of like a calamity or death, or because some of them are just not in the children's life, we believe that we still need to have that conversation and ensure that men and boys are taking their spaces within families that are very positive, and not to withhold resources and to withhold power from the women and girls. Thank you.
That was the only real question that wasn't already answered, Sheila, so we can wrap up.
You can wrap it up. First of all, I want to thank you, Dorcas and Rebecca. This was amazing. I'm really excited about your programs, and I'm sure our members will be too.
Thank you.
As a reminder,
Thank you.
Together Women Rise depends on your donations to support our grantees and to provide a wide variety of learning and engagement opportunities. I'll tell you about those next. You can make a one-time or recurring gift on our website, and Wendy is putting the donations link in the chat. So I'm going to quickly run through some of our upcoming events because they were covered by the grant committee person right before the video tonight. So I don't want to be repetitive, and I don't want to keep you here for too long. If you're like me, you like to be in bed with a good book by 9 o'clock. So some of our upcoming events. Our next monthly webinar is on Tuesday, October 1st, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Our guest speaker will be Kayla Pate, Development Manager from our featured grantee in October, which is called She's the First. Please note the date change due to the celebration of Rosh Hashanah. We talked about our next book club event, Last to Eat, Last to Learn, My Life in Afghanistan, Fighting to Educate Women. If you haven't read that book yet, it's really good. It's by Pashtana Durrani. We're going to be hosting a Q&A conversation with the author on Thursday, September 12th at 8 Eastern Time. We'll also be holding a separate online event for those wanting a deeper discussion about the book, and that'll be September 19th, same time. I think we talked about the advocacy group. If you're interested in doing advocacy for RISE, it's really an interesting approach. And it's September 24th. Feel free to join them for that if you're interested in doing advocacy work. We also, for next month, October, we have a full slate of activities planned centered around the October 11th International Day of the Girl Child. So I think it was already mentioned in October, please bring all the young women you know and girls to one of our meetings or one of our national events to celebrate this month. And we're going to have a webinar, Girls as Agents of Change, and that's going to be on October 10th. This is really going to be interesting at noon Eastern Time. You're going to hear stories of girls from Tomorrow's Women. Do you guys remember that program? It was, I believe, July 2023, and it involved Palestinian and Israeli women, and they formed coalitions and partnerships across borders. It was really interesting. And also during that Girls as Agents of Change program, we'll hear from She's the First, which is our October grantee as well. Both of those organizations are taking bold action across the world to shift discriminatory gender beliefs and practices. And you'll also hear Youth Poet Laureate Ariana Lee. She's going to perform an original poem written specifically for our event. That's big stuff. I can't wait for that. And finally, mark your calendar for Give to Women and Girls Day on October 11th. For the second year, RISE is an anchor partner for this special day that highlights the fact that less than 2% of charitable giving in the United States goes to organizations that support women and girls. We got to change that. We can do that by starting with our 2024 annual appeal that includes a special double your donation match starting on October 11th. So you can find all of this information. If you missed any of these dates or times, all of this info is on our website, togetherwomenrise.org. Click on the Join Us tab and then Upcoming Events, and you can learn more about them, and you can register for the event, and you can access recordings for all of our previous events. So with that, I'm going to close the meeting. I want to thank everyone who showed up. I really appreciate you joining us tonight, and we hope to see you at a future event. Thank you again, Rebecca and Dorcas. We so enjoyed your presentations. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.